Thank you to Claire and Melanie and Shannon for having me here today speaking to you about something that's not working again. Oh my god. I'm going to flip out. I'll handle it. Okay, so in this first slide you have here the strongest manifestation of the DCTV universe with what happened back in late November, early December, being the massive crossover of the 4 TV series entitled Invasion, which was the expected event since Supergirl had joined the network for its second season. I'm going to be speaking with numbers of ratings and ratios, and yeah, I know, I am the Emmanuel Macron of the panel, and I'll be just going by the numbers, but bear with me. The overall ratings of for the crossover were massive. Each show pretty much doubled its number of viewers. But if we take an overall look at how the CW did this season, you have here the ratings for the combined numbers for each series dated that are all compiled and that are dating from last week. So here you can see, for instance, that Supergirl here is compared to how it did on CBS last year. It dropped significantly in terms of, it's gonna make me because here, if we take a look at how it did in the first half of the season, on the CW, it had a 1.2 ratings for the one niche of viewers that everybody is aiming for, the 18-49 demographics. And it had it dropped a lot more with these numbers. But if we just take a look at the first 7 episodes of Supergirl this year, they had an average of 3.6 million viewers. It had, for the same period on CBS, 11.9 million viewers. So big drop, big drop. But let's not forget that the very structure of the CW is not similar to the rest of the big 4, with notably streaming deals that have changed the landscape of American TV. Back in 2012, the CW was the very first network to become associated with Nielsen in order to produce precise statistics and data upon viewership on all platforms based on their targeted audience, which is the highly coveted 18-49. They truly changed the way that we have become accustomed to analyzing viewership, because since now, all networks in the US work with Nielsen. Maybe, because it's not working.
Pas sur celui-là, donne-moi ta clé.
I have no idea why. Bless you. On dirait que ça cherche pas en fait en bas.
Ouais, justement.
Donc ouais, enlève là et on va sur une deux.
Ouais, ok. Bien, du coup, tu te mets là. Tu me mets là.
I'll just slide. On ne voit plus rien. Non mais... Ah. C'est bon? C'est bon. Finally. Okay, so yes, now every major network in the United States work with Nielsen. They all work with the same company. So the ratings that we all see, that we all get to analyze each week, are all coming from Nielsen. But it was actually the CW who were the first to do so. And once they did, every network in America did the same. So they were kind of the pathfinders here, at least about that. But this strategy came back to bite the CW in the lip, because back in 2012, the CW's Executive Vice President of Marketing and Digital Programs, that's his title, Rick Haskins, prided himself on the network's revolutionary take on their developing strategies that were in tune with the converging media platforms that included, if not put at its core, social media. As such, they also worked back in 2012 with Immersive Youth Marketing, that's a real company, which is a full, and I'm quoting here, which is a full service agency that helps motivate consumers to action. The objective of this partnership can be found online, and I think that it is quite instructive. And I'm going to quote you here a bit of what Immersive Youth Marketing has said about their partnership with the CW. Warner Bros. Entertainment Group was interested in tapping into the power of fandoms, influencers, e-commerce, and social media viewers who were watching millennial-centric television programming on the CW network. Immersive was partnered with a social media entertainment startup codenamed Kumbuya that was spun out of the Warner Bros. Media Camp Accelerator program to gauge the power of online fan communities, influencers, and the viability of turning fan energy and interest into sales revenue. The founding philosophy was to create the ultimate online gathering place where the CW network could partner with and empower influencers with a forum where they can share fan art, UGC, view premium show content, build a robust fan community, and connect with the stars of their favorite CW programs. End of quote. That's the whole CW marketing strategy of the last few years, summed up. However, if the CW was the leader in this new way of thinking 5 years ago, the result we can see now is not the one that the network intended. With all major networks having followed in CW's path, the network was not able to maintain its leadership with the 1849 target audience. But they are still one step ahead in terms of funding for the network's program, thanks to the streaming partnerships that they were able to make. In 2011, they were able to strike a deal with the streaming platform Hulu, which is itself a joint venture of the Walt Disney Company, because they're everywhere. This deal came to an end in June 2016, so quite recently, when the CW very cleverly renegotiated their streaming offer with the now Netflix juggernaut, a deal which changed many things for the channel's ad revenue strategy. The deal is reportedly worth up to $1 billion a year. And by comparison, the network's upfront ad sales last year totaled about $500 million. So that's why the CW is able to renew programs that are this bad in terms of ratings and audience numbers. I mean, that's why. And it's quite amazing to follow the CW's ongoing transmedia strategies, as they appear to be following by the book what Henry Jenkins, Sam Ford, and Joshua Green wrote in 2013 in their collective book called Spreadable Media, Creating Value and Meaning in a Networked Culture, especially with chapter 3, The Value of Media Engagement. And I'm going to quote them a little here. The television industry's gradual evolution from an appointment-based model to an engagement-based one reflects shifts occurring across the media industries as networked communication makes visible the once invisible work of active audiences in creating value and expanding engagement around media properties. The logic behind purchasing an imagined mass and passive audience is breaking down, and demographic segmentation by age and gender is being questioned. In this environment, marketers will have to find new ways to account for audiences and to value the purchase of advertising space. Any new system must respect the importance of surplus audiences and the role active audience members play as grassroots intermediaries shaping the experience of other audience members. Again, this is at the core of the CW strategy and how they are advertising their whole programs. Is it working? Yeah, it's working. These are gifts that I made myself. I'm so proud of it. As such, the network can apprehend the future with rather calm and serenity, which also explained why I said they are pretty much the only network that's able to announce their renewed shows that early in the season compared to the rest of the networks. This freedom has made many envious in but many American TV analysts are also criticizing the network for not making riskier bets in terms of programs, and many are criticizing the current brand of the channel, superheroes. And when I'm saying brand, that's pretty much the hashtag brand here that you have. That's the official CW reference. They call it the hashtag brand when they talk about superheroes. So yeah, I had some fun here creating GIFs from the 4 different TV series logos that always close each episodes of the 4 different titles. This is fun, but it is also very revealing of the CW strategy regarding its superhero franchise. They know that playing upon imagery is something that the aficionados of the genre will respond to particularly well, since they are all based on an already highly visual medium, the comics. But there is something more. They did not create one single DCW logo for all the superhero series of the network. They made one for each, tapping into the collectibility that is also very strongly associated with the genre. Comic book readers don't read just one title of comics. So why not play on the individuality of these different series, reinforcing it, through identifiable visuals in order to incite the audience to reproduce their reading practices as viewing ones, cementing the link between readership and viewership through the genre it is here stemming from. So this might seem trivial, but the emphasis on character-based visuals, such as these, is symptomatic of the CW's willingness to activate intersectionality of cultural practices. And by the way, the posters that are made on the CW website, there are so many original posters for superheroes compared to the rest of the CW shows. So again, this emphasis, this overemphasis on visuals is particularly noticeable here with the superheroes. Speaking of intersectionality, it is true that superhero TV series are quite literally feeling like they're taking over the CW, but it is also quite interesting to see that within social media and fandom forums, the CW other shows have managed to pervade through platforms that were initially solely dedicated to the superheroes. For instance, one of the biggest websites of the comic book genre, comicbookmovie.com, of which you have a screen grab right here, regularly has articles about Supernatural, Vampire Diaries, the originals, even if they are not superhero or comic book related, at least not initially. These entries on the website are very on point as to what Jenkins, again, and Mitsuko Ito and Dana Boyd explain as the core of participatory culture, with narrative objects that are bridging across genres according to the will of the active audience. You can see here the unveiling of the 2016-17 schedule. Superheroes pretty much each evening except on Fridays. But next fall, brace yourself, because you'll have superheroes each night, because they were all renewed, and there's another superhero TV series coming to the CW, and they will necessarily put it on Friday, or they will move the schedule around, but there will be a DCTV Universe series each night on the CW next fall. Rick Porter, who is a Texan editor for TV by the Numbers, have to say about the CW programming is quite interesting, I think. He says that with the way that its business is set up, it would seem that the CW has a chance to take some bigger swings with its programming. The network's #brand is superheroes right now, and it was teen dramas before that. But it doesn't have to be. It might do well to follow the lead of channels like Effects, which has a well-established rep for supporting its show creators, or the similarly young adult-focused TBS. Okay, agreed. The CW was teen dramas before it was a full-on superhero festival, but here Porter also has a bit of a short-term memory, because superheroes are nothing new to the CW, as you mentioned before. Before I'm going to dive into that, I had this quote here that I find quite revealing of the whole strategy that they used for the DCTV universe. This is a quote from Jonathan Gray in Shows Sold Separately, and it's in his concluding remarks, he's writing this: "The worlds of Marvel and DC Comics can at times appear to be conducting a colonial occupation of the summer box office, while simultaneously developing strong presences in televised animation, video games, and merchandising. Marvel and DC have trained audiences to expect infinite reboots and alternate universes, a strategy that allows James Bond-like ease of movement across media venues, but also restricts the prospects for a continuing narrative to be told across those venues." So let's rewind a bit. I have some shirtless Tom Welling of my own here. But it is, again, it is a pivotal show for the network in terms, again, of marketing strategy. We had Supernatural, but we had Smallville to smooth over the transition from the WB to the CW. I mean, it was 5 years of WB, and then 5 years of CW. And it was really one show that helped this transition and this shift from one model to the other. So again, it's very teenage drama, yeah, but you know, the value of media engagement was already perceptible in what they did with Smallville, as they grounded the casting of the show on constant references to the existing Superman transmedia mythology. The series spoke to its audience on many different levels, but that of nostalgia was particularly emphasized, making the audience accept that much better the often very cheesy tone of the teenage drama, because it was superhero, but it was teenage drama, all right. Here you have a whole slide of the different characters that have appeared here on Smallville, which relied heavily on the presence of prestigious guest stars in its storytelling. Guest stars that were all linked either to the Superman mythology or to the science fiction successful genre. As such, we find front and center Christopher Reeves as Dr. Virgil Swan, a founding member of the Veritas Society who swore to protect the Traveler, who's Clark. Terry Hatcher, who portrayed Ella Lane, Lois' deceased mother. We only see her appearing in a video, VHS and all. It was back in the day. We have Margot Kidder, who portrayed the original Lois Lane alongside Christopher Reeves, that we see here with Martha. Linda Carter, Wonder Woman. Up there is with Supergirl, Laura Vandervoot, is Ellen Slater, who played Supergirl in the very bad Supergirl film that was made back in 1984, if I remember correctly. We had Dean Cain, who played a rival to Clark, which I think it's amazing that they cast him as a rival for the new Superman. I mean, it's fun. And also we had Terrence Stamp, who played General Zod in the original films, who voiced Jor-El in The Fortress of Solitude. And the list goes on. And we have here Michael Shanks of Stargate, Battlestar Galactica, Colonel Saul Tigg, and I added Amy Adams because, I mean, Amy Adams is now Lois Lane, and so Smallville was prophetic. So that's all that you're gonna get from me. Here we can see that with how much Smallville relied upon its illustrious guests, the Superman series viewed itself as an heir from the stars who already contributed to the Superman mythos. All these references induce an intertextual play within pop culture that oscillates between science fiction hints of other sexual franchises adaptation as well. Playing with them also enabled the audience to play with them according to the shared knowledge that they appeal to. They introduced legendary actors for the virgin viewers who ignore their previous role in the Superman mythos while intending to play and or reinvent roles for the people aware of the icons that they are, attributing them a symbolical dimension that is also triggering different levels of interpretation. Christopher Reeve here is a dad-like protective figure, etc., etc. So we have intertextual casting choices that are motivated by both narrative or meta-narrative, but as well as marketing strategies as well. There are marketing motives in order to attract viewers with that. And that's exactly what happened with the DCTV universe that they launched. We have here the Super Friends cover of Entertainment Weekly, a cover that is playing on several fronts here. On the one hand, we're seeing the actors in costume, but clearly outside of characters, since the Oliver Queen from Arrow, even completely drunk, would never hug and flash such a perfect smile. These are Grant Gustin, Melissa Benoist, and Stephen Amell playing around dressed as their characters, conveying the oh-so-friendly vibe of the DCTV universe that the CW is heavily advertising on, especially with their respective Facebook accounts. Second, it was still promoting the brand of the CW with their 3 biggest series of the moment and the upcoming massive crossover of the invasion at the time. But there's also another one that's playing with the Super Friends caption, because Super Friends is actually, I know that you know, is the original, it's a reference to the original Super Friends show, which was a Saturday morning cartoon lineup produced by Hanna-Barbera and broadcasted on ABC from 1973 to 1986. Many young Americans grew up with these Saturday morning cartoons, and they know very well that the Super Friends were all based on DC comic book characters, primarily on the Justice League. So referencing that to viewers who are now right at the core of the 1849 niche, it's quite straightforward. Let us not forget that all those cartoons of the late 70s, 80s, 90s have all been aptly rebranded animated series to free all their viewers from feeling guilty for still watching superhero cartoons, because they are cartoons, they're not animated series. Come on.
No judging.
No judging. I mean, I'm still watching it. Don't judge me. Even if Supergirl was on CBS when it was created by the very same team of people that created Arrow and The Flash on the CW. So it's no surprise here that they went straight at the jugular and they reproduced within the first now 2 seasons of Supergirl what they did in Smallville in terms of casting choices. We have Linda Carter, who is playing President Marsden. Of course, Wonder Woman is now president. We have Indigo here, that was played by Laura Vandervoort, who played Supergirl in Smallville. We have Ellen Slater and Dean Cain, respectively, playing Kara's adoptive parents on Earth. How more straightforward can you be? It's the same. I didn't put any slides here with Mehcad Brooks, who's playing Jimmy Olsen, coming from True Blood, coming from Desperate Housewives. Again, in terms of streamline of his career, that has always been at the core of the 1849 demographics. Same thing with Calista Flockhart as Cat Grant, Ally McBeal. Again, right where we want the audience to be. We know that the CW DCTV Universe is very apt to orchestrate crossover events like we have rarely seen on TV, but the CW is also quite keen on cross-casting as well, ensuring its newcomer TV series, like Supergirl, to have the best possible shot at integrating the superhero roster of the channel. That is why Chris Wood was cast as Mon-El from Daxam in the 2nd season. Wood was cast as the villain Kai Parker in 2014 for the 6th season of The Vampire Diaries. And he became a fan favorite like that. He inflamed social media back in 2015. And that's why we kept seeing him on occasions in season 7 and 8 of The Vampire Diaries, and why we have now him in Supergirl. It's very straightforward, again, in terms of marketing strategies. And it went, I mean, even further with Pop TV royalty this year. Literally, because these are the king and queen of Daxam, Mon-El's parents, played by none other than Terry Hatcher and Hercules, and what was his name on Andromeda? Captain Dylan Hunt in Andromeda, Kevin Sorbo. I mean, how straightforward can you be? Same thing happened in The Flash with John Wesley Shipp, who played the original Flash back in 1991, who played Barry Allen's father, biological father on Earth 1, and ideological father as Jay Garrick on Earth 2? Too many Earths, I'm lost. And John Wesley Shipp again being Dawson's dad. Key demographic. Wow. They did not think that through at all. This is just brand new. Again, here with references of Mark Hummel and Carrie Fisher. And I'm sure that if she were still alive, we would have seen Carrie Fisher in a DCTV capacity whatsoever. I'm sure of it. Oh my God, I have to conclude. Okay, so I had plenty of things to say about Felicity, called Overwatch, again, in terms of referentiality. Felicity, who is now heavily criticized of becoming the new Chloe Sullivan, or of now being overtly the new Chloe Sullivan from Smallville, which began with the Overwatch codename, because Chloe Sullivan's codename was Watchtower. So it's like, there's something here, and they're basically the same character. With those characters, those techies characters always are the ones dropping intertextual references constantly, pop culture references, which is fun in a way, and it's also the best way to hook right at the heart the hardcore viewers, because in terms of identification, I don't have time here to go straight to that, but in terms of identification, the hardcore viewers are always going to identify not with the superheroes or the victims, they are going to identify with the techie. They're going to identify with Felicity in Arrow, with Cisco in The Flash, and now with Winn in Supergirl. And they are the three characters that are dropping pop culture references constantly to sort of say, hey, we know you know, and we're doing this kind of for you to just have fun with it. But these references are very useful tools to make the target audience click to hook them to the show, which is pretty much what I said here. I'm just going to say that Raiders of the Lost Art is the best possible title they could have found for this episode, because it is. I mean, we spoke together of legends before, so I'm not going to go back to that. But yeah, George Lucas. I liked it, but anyway. Again, with the references here, it's quite obvious the two very different strategies that they took in terms of The Flash and Arrow. Arrow is basically a superhero-like character in a non-superhero world with an unknown actor, and The Flash is the exact opposite. It's a very big superhero world, but Grant Gustin as Barry Allen, when the casting choice was revealed, everyone was like, what? Grant Gustin as Barry Allen, really? Like, he's nothing of the superhero that we're expecting. So those two strategies are, I think, very interesting, and those casting choices were very similar to what was made with Supergirl, again, with a Glee alumni. Here you have the poster from the original crossover from CBS. That's a remake of the comic book cover of the Superman versus the Flash race back in the day, which is very fun if you're a feminist to see that Kara is now taking Clark's place. I'm going to conclude now. Yeah. The CW, in the way that it has built its marketing strategies, has been a pioneer in wanting to activate the sleeper agents that we are, and the DCTV universe and how it has been articulated by the CW in marketing and narrative terms goes on to show how the network has worked toward the biggest possible inclusion of its viewership in the programs that they make. The puns and jokes and references are all there to invite the viewers to draw them in further in their narratives. But this emphasis can become poisonous to the network, as contrary to Marvel, they did not choose to share the same universe between all mediums, but to create one bubble of the DCTV, which, as it stands, should be called the CW DCTV Universe, because it is working on its own. Maybe it is for the best if the WBDC film franchises keep on underperforming in cinemas, but what many have called superhero fatigue might come first for the CW, because seeing different versions of the same characters on TV and on film might become redundant and boring to some point. Daring to defy is nice and all, but maybe the network's powers that be should start to think outside the superhero box and dare to diversify. And I'm gonna hand on that. And this is the new one.
Next one, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
That was challenging.